Start. And good afternoon. You are rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. Dave is actually taking a break today, probably a much needed break. Many of you know here in the great state of Michigan on August 2nd, we did have our primary elections. And as I just said to Nathan, if you were uh, a Democrat or a Republican who was running unopposed for your position, then I felt like, this is the political version of America's Got Talent. We got the golden buzzer and we get to move on to the live show in November. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, we get to move forward. Unfortunately, Dave did not win his seat. He was the incumbent. He has, almost for the last 10 years been a Kent County commissioner. And we want to say thank you so much for your service, Dave. So he is definitely on a much needed vacation, as many of those who did have um, a primary and they had some running mates. Hey, Jess. Hey, there's Jess. She's hanging out with us today. We'll add her. There we go.
Hi, Jess. Good
He
to see you.
definitely is the best. Dave Bukowski. Oh my gosh, yes, is the very, very best. But we have Nathan here. Hey, Nate.
Hi
Uh,
there. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are so, so welcome. So I think that we always have really great conversations uh, backstage.
Yeah, you could say that.
We try to figure out how much we want to bring from the backstage conversation to you live. And I think that we will bring a portion of our conversation, as I did in the introduction, that Dave is not here today. He is taking um, a vacation day, if you will. He did have a primary. And the question that I asked Nathan, well, first, Nathan, tell us a little bit about this 40 piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of concept of the group was looking at how disability advocates of Kent County has been around for about 40 years and thinking like, okay, this is a good time to really reflect on like where we've been, but then also where do we want to be in the next 40. So that's sort of how we got the name Next 40. And really what we're trying to do is engage another generation of folks and just people who are maybe new to philanthropy, who don't think that philanthropy fits who they are, and saying like, yes, you actually can give back, make a difference in your community, and build a powerful network. So people of all abilities, backgrounds are invited to take a leadership role, and we do monthly events that really help build that network. So we've got service projects, educational activities, and sometimes we'll just have fun and go to a local bar or restaurant and just get to know each other. So really a great chance to just connect and find like-minded folks in the area.
Oh, I like that kind. um, I think being new to philanthropy, um, I guess I shouldn't say that I'm new to it. I've done it, and in my community, it's just like, oh, it's just what we do. It's just a part of service. It's just a part of giving. It's but the level of, of giving has changed for me over the years. I probably, after spending maybe 3 or 4 years with disability advocates of Kent County, first as a consumer, and then secondly, um, on the other end, where I was able to give back, my service, whether it was showing up with my time, my talents, and I had a little bit of treasures, but then as my treasures grew, then I was able to invest not only, my time and my talents, but as well as, giving financially.
Mm-hmm.
With the biggest piece, I think the first thing that I did was the Investinability dinner,
Yeah.
and I love, the outreach.
Right.
Just the number of people that are there, to start. I think it was 2016 to be an impact speaker, to turn around the next year in 2017 to be a, you know, key sponsor.
Yeah.
I think it's making those types of leaps. That how do we impress that upon other people to say, okay, first of all, I want you to come out and lend your voice
Right.
and talk about us. And then number two, not just your voice. Now let's see, where can you give back? You can show up at events, buy tickets and things like that. I think that's on a smaller scale. And then, on the larger scale, you can invest your money and
Right.
say, how do I do that? And we talked about even if it's a $25 a month donation. I mean, we spend more than that on French fries at McDonald's a month.
Right. Well, I think you overthink it, right? Like you think, well, I'm not giving this, huge amount comparatively to somebody I see in the news with the giant, jumbo sized check. And you think, well, what
Oh,
is,
and then they get their names put inside of
yeah.
their big placards. Oh.
But you can make a contribution. And well, I'm glad you mentioned time too, because I think that some people don't view volunteering as a way to give back when really it's, studies have shown that like a volunteer hour has more worth in some cases than a financial contribution. It's really a tremendous way to give back. And, it's the small things you don't think about, we have so many events, even at Disability Advocates, where it would just be handy to have someone help us with setup and tear down, the little things but they help us make, our work run smoother and our organization just flow. It's that contribution that really matters. So
I think that's a great point to mention, that I think society as a whole says that if you're not the one, with the big check, and if you're not given enough to have your name put on a room, or a big placard, or you're on this list of, oh wow, our big donors, that you haven't contributed anything. But I beg to differ. One of the programs that you have at Disability Advocates is peer support.
Yeah.
And not just, with veterans, but you offer opportunities for other persons that have diverse abilities to meet someone else that maybe they have similar, you know, abilities or lack thereof, but we get an opportunity to have a conversation. You
Yeah.
know, you provide outlets, events to be able to show up and just to have the discussion. So I know that you have an event coming up.
Yeah, well, a couple actually. So we've got our trivia night on August 17. So our community education specialist, John Couchy, he's a real great guy, very funny if you haven't met him. And
He is.
he's going to be our host, and come on out as an individual or a team. And we're going to be doing questions that have to do with the intersection of pop culture and disability. So as a minor spoiler, we'll maybe be asking how, if any superheroes have disabilities, some athletes. I won't spoil it, John, too much, but
okay, I'm gonna do this. Oh, John, because see, what I don't want are people, Googling. Oh, let me look real quick. So let's just give me a whole list. So
you didn't hear it from me.
I can win.
Yes.
I'm not saying who would do something like that.
Well, and there may or may not be a prize for the winning team, so even more of an incentive.
Friends, and thanks you. We love you.
So yeah, the event's going to be at Atwater Brewery. If you haven't been there, it's a nice spot downtown. Lots of tables. And then we're also having a film screening at Wealthy Theater on August 24th. It's going to be the film Crip Camp, which is about a camp during the 1970s with people with disabilities and how they kind of went on from that point to become part of the civil rights movement and help with the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So that'll be followed by a panel discussion with some of our great friends of the organization, including a couple of the disability advocates of Kent County board members and just some folks in the community. And just talking about how well it depicts that era, what we can learn from it, and most importantly, where do we go from there as a movement? How do we learn from those lessons and take something away to move into the future. So
Um, I think a couple of things that have happened. Um, Governor Whitmer signed the
yes.
bill, House Bill 4075 and 4076. And I can say this is something that disability advocates of Kent County was instrumental in. And if you want to get involved, this is another way that you can be involved because many of us represented a CIL, which is a Center for Independent Living, which, disability advocates is. I want to say we had one, two, three, four, maybe five reps from the 14 CILs across the state of Michigan. We went to Lansing and we knocked on doors. So we went from state rep office to state rep office, and then we went to the state Senate offices and we knocked on doors. And we got enough signatures that when they went on the floor, that it passed unanimously to be able to change language and to be able to change the picture that depicts, and then the word handicap will not be used anymore in languaging as it relates to signs and doors. So that was really exciting. And it would have been nice, people were like, what can we do? I may not, be that way, but guess what? Everybody knows somebody. What are the numbers? It was 1 in 5 persons
Right.
at some time will experience a disability, whether it is temporary, permanent, or situational. We know that since COVID has hit, that number has gone up exponentially. So now you're almost a 1 in 1. If you get COVID, the odds, of you possibly being a long hauler.
Yeah. Well, and something I would really encourage too for folks is just to think also local, like because I think sometimes we get intimidated if it's too big or if you're scared that, maybe the thought of going to Lansing seems overwhelming. Of course, we would encourage people to do that, but, also right in your backyard.
As long as it's not an insurrection.
True. So my colleague at Disability Advocates, Michael Williams, he right now is doing a lot of work with just increasing transportation options right here in Kent County, looking at things like crossroads. How can we make things more walkable, expanding bus routes? And a lot of that is really work that volunteers can get plugged into and make their voice heard right in their own town. So maybe looking at what can you do to improve your community and make it a friendlier place to be.
Absolutely. I was excited to work with Michael on last week. We actually worked with Ride Your Way and Move, and we went downtown and we used an app to figure out all the places that are accessible for persons with diverse abilities. So it was a really nice event, and I want to give a shout out to Tupelo Honey. They have some really great food. I was supposed to, I'm just telling my truth. It was hot. I was tired. I had been at Disability Advocates all day. And so, one of the places I happened to, map and tag, they just had some wonderful food. And so maybe I might have taken the time to order and have a couple of snacks.
So how is Grand Rapids doing? Are we accessible? Is there room for improvement?
I would like to say that I have been doing this since about 2016. This is now 2020. How many years is that?
Oh, doing math on the fly is not my strong suit.
Okay. And this is what we give degrees to, friends and neighbors. Yes, your mom and dad should be really proud of the money that they spent on your education. That's 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 and 6 is 12.
Yes.
Carry the one. But that's okay. I'm not here to embarrass you. Not at all. But really, though, parents, we're not talking about education today, though. But no, I would definitely have to say there has been a vast improvement. I have been a wheelchair user now. This in October will begin my 10th year of being a
Mhm.
wheelchair user, and I can definitely say it is so much better than when I started in back in 1900 and back then. Yeah, it definitely has improved.
Yeah.
I think there's always I laugh because just like the roads need to be repaired, and
Mhm.
so do the sidewalks. So I think that as we repair roads, we need to think about the sidewalks as well, that they do need maintenance and that they do crack and get these big huge fissures or just places. Somebody is laughing at us. I don't know who it is, but okay, they're laughing. That's a good thing. But I think that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. In fact, just on my roll down the street, I love doing that now. Oh my God. To be able to roll from my house down to Disability Advocates of Kent County. Now, um, the road, the streets, those are our streets. The sidewalks, those are our wheelchairs, roads, and they definitely need to be repaired. So
Absolutely.
I think that that's would be the only negative. But as far as um, things being accessible, being able to have automatic doors to come into restaurants or indoor bars
Mhm.
is very, very nice. And then just the table seating, some places like to have the high round tables or the high, square tables, and to know that they have some lower ones as well. I love that there's space for wheelchairs to wheel through to be able to come, and the servers are just awesome now. You come in if you're in a wheelchair, when they get ready to seat you, they automatically remove a chair because sometimes before you wheel up and they're just like, I don't know how we're gonna do this. Well, duh, just move a
Mhm.
chair away. But what's common sense for some is not common for all.
Right.
Just a little small nuances to say that what, you're welcome here. We want you to be here. Not having interests is a half a block away. That's accessible. So people are really taking notice to some of the things that we've done. With downtown GR. Um, Absolutely accessible Kent. And these are all
Mhm.
programming that has come out of Disability Advocates of Kent County. And we've been called test pilots, is what we are. We test to see if things are really great, not crash dummies, we're test pilots.
Right. Right.
So I think that overall, definitely an A plus. When you look at places like Steelcase or Frederick Meyer Garden, I think the relationship with Experience GR, they
Mhm.
have been just phenomenal
Yeah.
with their inclusivity. So I think that that's another place where people can just come in and volunteer and say, hey, you know what? If nothing else, I don't mind every now and again, if I want to be in my manual wheelchair when I'm not in the Bentley, I have to take the
Mhm.
little Mercedes over there. I don't mind people pushing me around and talking behind my back. Yeah. Only with my permission, though. Only with my permission.
Yeah.
And so I think those are things that people can do. Maybe go volunteer at Frederick Meyer Garden and help a mom who has 4 children and one of them happens to have autism, and just say, you know what, I'm going to go with you guys to Frederick Meyer Garden today.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one of the most inspirational stories that I've heard or encountered when I was with disability advocates, I did with our career services team. We had a mock interview session day at the Association for Blind and Visually Impaired, and I was paired with a student who had never been in the workplace. She had a visual impairment herself,
Hmm.
and she said her big love was gardening. And I asked if she had ever encountered Frederick Meyer Garden, and she said, I would really like to volunteer there. And after that session, she said, after hearing from so many folks, she said, I'm going to try to kind of dip my toe in the water, and I want to try to volunteer there. So just really cool stories to hear like that. And I'm just really excited to be a part of it. So,
I like that. I like stories like that. And with that, we'll take a break. You are watching Growing on the Road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. Dave is on respite today. Yes, he's out glamping. No, I glamp. He camps. We want to say thank you so much for tuning in. We have Nathan Slauer with us today, and he works at Disability Advocates of Kent County. Now, the way that I deal with Nathan, Nathan is always like, "Are we writing a check this week, or what are we doing?" But you are kind of pivoting a little bit away from the money and finding other ways. The Bible has three things, your time, your talents, and your treasures. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can give of your time and of your talents. One of the things that you mentioned was the preview for Crip Camp.
Mm-hmm.
How is that helpful if someone comes to do the screening with you?
Sure. So I'm hoping that first, if you aren't familiar with the history of the disability rights movement, that this gives some kind of picture of what life was like back then and just kind of informs where we can go from there. But then most importantly, I'm hoping that it'll be a jump off for, or I guess you can frame it in the context of this wasn't that long ago that we passed the Americans with Disabilities Act, which gave people very basic protections. But even then, a lot of it, when we look at how it's applied today, it's sort of seen as the bare minimum. We cross over that bar and it's okay, but we can do much better. Yes. So I kind of want to use this as a point of inspiration to say, what can we do? Where are we seeing areas to improve on? And how can we get that same kind of level of passion that the activists in this film had to really make that change? What is kind of the next ADA? What is that next push that we need to do to make our society that much more accessible? And what steps can I do in my own life, even if I'm not, going to DC next week? Could I do something just right in my backyard or with a group near me to help give back in some way? So those are the kind of questions I hope to spark, and hopefully we have a really good conversation around it.
I'm sitting here, I'm thinking like, what can I do? Yes. What do we need to do differently? I think that even if you have the lived experience, and I think that's the piece that I always bring to the table, that as you're thinking about this, you're creating these events, is this the right event to get people inspired or to inspire them? Is it enough to motivate them to action?
Sure. Well, at the very least, I want to open the door to people to take a leadership role themselves. The point of the group is really to invite people who maybe haven't stepped into a leadership role before and give them the opportunity to say, what kind of events do we want to see? Do we want to do more advocacy, a service project? Do we have a great idea for building community? And just run with it. It's a pretty new group, and we've already tried some great stuff, and I just am excited to see what comes next. There's always going to be more on the horizon. So,
what is the impetus for you even wanting to be involved in this type of project?
Like Next 40, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I'm just a passionate believer that we each have an opportunity to give back in some way. And I want to encourage people to volunteer with a great organization. I think that we have so much going on here, and the more that we can, raise awareness of what we do and find ways to engage maybe new folks in that type of work, whether it be helping with our career services, connecting people with employment opportunities, or maybe learning more about the home modifications that we do. There's just so much going on. And even if just people walk away understanding a little bit more of that and maybe being inspired to do give back in some way themselves, maybe they sign up to do a mock interview sometime, or maybe they want to host.
Those are fun.
Yeah, doing some kind of a service project with us, bringing their ideas to the table. I really just want to create that open space for people to bring their own creativity to this. So,
Okay, if you want to participate with Nathan or get a hold of him, the next 40, offering new ways to give back, his email is nathan.s@dakc.us. His phone, and it is his direct line, 616-323-2208. And you can see there where you can go to DAC and click on their events, and you'll see their past events, you'll see upcoming events. And I guess I always ask people, when you come to the disability community and you don't necessarily have a visible disability, I say, why? What is your relationship to this community?
Well, first, I just think it's humbling to just learn from people who I work with and who have taken on a leadership role. I really admire the team here at Disability Advocates, and I guess I'm just eager to remove barriers that prevent people like the people who I work with and who are in this community from just living their daily lives. One of the stories I'll kind of use to highlight this. I recently met a gentleman named Bruce who was suffering from arthritis, and just the simple fix of changing out his doorknob for a handle really helped him out, just because it was hurting his hand to open the door. And it's those kind of fixes that may seem small but really make an impact on someone's life that this organization does a part of. And I'm just really passionate about being with a team that is doing that kind of door opening on a daily basis.
Wow. That is such a symbolic metaphor, the opening of a door, literally and figuratively. Because many people don't realize that just something as simple as changing out a doorknob will open up.
Yeah.
Well, so many possibilities. I mean, when we think about, we got an open door, whether it's an open door policy, an open door to a new life, an open door to a new home, and that metaphor of a door handle opening up something and the ease in which that happens. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what's so cool to see too is how contagious that feeling is once that's happened for you. So Bruce, who I just mentioned, has now kind of become an unofficial spokesman for our work since we've done that change. So he's now, talked to a bunch of his neighbors and said, your home could look like this too. It's not just me. And go hang out with those guys at Disability Advocates. They know how to, get your space in the right spot. So I think that just continuing to build those opportunities for the door opening to happen is really important.
Wow. So there was nothing in particular that said, push you this way, other than all I can hear is that you're addicted to doing well.
I don't know.
Everybody has some sort of addiction. They're not all bad. And so what I hear is that I did it a couple of times and I like the high of it. And I think I want all my friends to get high with me and not just drink it.
Well, and I will say it has been just such a pleasure getting to know the team here. I've only been here since January, and already it feels like kind of a second home to me. I just really love the camaraderie, the sense of humor, the passion, the energy. It's just a really great environment, and I just really like sharing people's stories. It's not about me so much as letting people have the spotlight and getting out the word on a really important issue. So as much as I can hold up those folks with, whether it be through an event or through a group like Next 40, I want to continue doing that.
Now, I think we've laid enough groundwork that we can circle back to the conversation that we were having before we came live on air. When you see situations like in January, the big insurrection at uh, at the Capitol, how, as a Gen X or a millennial, does that affect you when you think about the next 40?
Sure. Um, I think one thing that's sort of we're seeing as a generational shift is that I think younger folks are really engaged, not just in quick fixes. We're really interested in systems and how do we get to the root of a problem. And we're not
Mhm.
afraid to take more of an activist approach. So if there's a way that we can change a problem or address a problem through legislation or through lobbying, we're not afraid to get our hands dirty. And when we see things like what happened with the insurrection, I think that kind of activist atmosphere, that protesting against threats to democracy is something that's going to happen. So I think it's really important to also just stay informed and to kind of consider where we're getting our information from, how our media sources reliable? Are we kind of in an echo chamber with folks that think the same way as us? And how do we find ways to engage with maybe people who are different from us, but not in so much a way that you're finding information that's unreliable. So
And one of the things that we talked about in the back studio was how we're in these balloons or pockets
mhm.
of where we receive our information, or we're in balloons or pockets of persons.
Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe Nathan, you might be the pin, you know, because you just walk around. I love it, you just my grandkids love to do that. Here we go. I think I have some right here. Here's our bubbles. Here, can you see the
Yeah.
bubble? Oh, wait a minute. Where did the bubbles go? There we go. We got these bubbles, and they like to walk around. They go pop. Wait a minute. That's misinformation. That's misinformation. Wait a minute. Here we go. Misinformation. Pop, 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 pop. Whoa, we got some more bubbles coming up of misinformation. Pop them, Nathan. Go.
Yeah.
So, do you think that groups like the next 40 is that, what we think that we need to create, even as I guess as older adults? We have to stop and think, what are we teaching you? What are we leaving you
Yeah.
as we start to make these decisions? Because I think that you're definitely under 30.
I'm 30 exactly.
You're 30 oh wow. Yeah. So my oldest, they are 35. So I
Mhm.
definitely can say, you know, um, hmm, do you believe that at 30 you're doing more than some of us that are at 50 or 60? Have the values changed between where I am and where you are?
Ooh, that's a big one. Well, I definitely don't like to compare what one person is doing versus another because we all come from different positions of what are we're able to do, different backgrounds, different interests. So I don't want to get in the game of deciding who's doing more when, but I do think it is important to recognize the things that different generations contribute and accepting different ways too. So one of the things that's exciting about the younger crowd, for instance, is just the innovative ways we're using technology even to
Hmm.
find. So things like crowdfunding barely existed in recent years. Now it's exploding as a way to give back and to more, micro causes. Helping a friend who broke their leg, or helping an animal who's been lost and needs medical treatment. Those kind of targeted causes as much as funding a larger organization. And also, it's just helping getting the word out. Instead of relying on large scale media operations, a lot of folks use social media and creative, like mobile chains, like things like Discord and Slack chat rooms, just to get the message out a way that's way faster and more connected than ever before. So I'm really just excited to kind of learn from how that's going to affect the next generation of philanthropists, and maybe there's something that traditional philanthropy can learn from that new way of doing things.
Okay, you said you don't like to make the comparison, but maybe that's not the word that should be used, because definitely you compared your generation, because it's use Gen X and you use millennials, in comparison to those that come from other eras and other generations, and how do we get it out and how do we do something different. So you're kind of going against your own thing about not comparing, because everybody does have a different ability.
Sure.
And the question that I'm asking you is, those that have come before you are now gathering a group of people to say, how can we do something different? Because obviously there's something that you think that either we were doing, we stopped doing, or we need to continue what we do, but we just need to do it differently.
Yeah. I think technology is an important piece of the puzzle, and I think learning how to use that effectively as we adapt into the future, I think that's just critical to keeping up. And I think that one of the things our generation is really eager to do is to just meet in person, especially now that COVID seems to be more open than we were a couple of years back. I think people are really eager to be in person and to build their communities, over time, and be part of an ongoing sense of community. So the more that we can offer those kind of opportunities and build that sense of camaraderie, I think that's really important.
And so what you're looking for out of those that are coming forward to be a part of this next 40?
Yeah. So we have a monthly meeting for our committee each Friday, or the last Friday of each month. It's at noon. You can either swing by our space at Disability Advocates and hang out with me in person for a little bit, or we have a virtual meeting link that I can send you. So just shoot me an email if you're interested, and plug in, share your ideas. Each month we plan the next couple months event calendar and decide what kind of activities we're going to be doing. At a minimum, we do some kind of a mixer just to stay in touch with each other. But then on more of a quarterly basis, we'll put on larger scale service projects, screenings of films, advocacy opportunities, that sort of thing. So if you have a great idea, please bring it to the table, and we want you to share what you want to do. And then another way to get involved is simply through membership. That's going to be going live fairly soon, and that's just a way to invest more deeply in helping us fund the project, and also to provide ways to kind of stay connected. There's a number of benefits associated with that. I won't get into all the details, but really great way to plug in on more of a higher level than just attending an event.
Well, Nathan, is there anything else that you think that we didn't talk about that you want the people to know?
Just that I'm really excited to see where the group goes over the next year. I think, we're at the start of a really great project. I think we have a lot of momentum going since our kickoff a couple months back. And we've already had so many people reach out to me, saying, how can we lend a hand? So consider getting involved. Think about, how do you want to see change happen in your community, whether it's through just meeting other folks in a friendly atmosphere, or, maybe taking your voice to a higher level and advocating for change. So this is the group to do it. Bring your ideas. Look forward to meeting you soon.
Woo, woo, woo. Woo! So this is the Next 40, offering new ways to give back with Nathan Slauer. His email is nathan.s@dakc.us. Phone number, it is his direct line, 616-323-2208. And you can go to dakc.us/events to find out where they are, what they're doing, where they will be. And we're just so honored to have you today and to have the conversation. Thank you so, so much for just rolling on through.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So you have been rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. Dave is taking some much needed time off, and we will see you next Tuesday, same time, same place. Thank you so, so much for tuning in. And if you have not been vaccinated or been boosted, please do so. We still, we're not necessarily in a pandemic. I think we're easing more into an endemic. So that means just like you go and get your vaccinations on a regular basis, especially those who travel, you go and you get your inoculations to make sure that you are well for travel. Please do the same thing with your COVID shot. Until next week, you guys, please be safe and we'll see you soon.